So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session on building purpose-driven organizations. And we have a great panel to discuss this topic in the next hour. And I was just inspired by Louise and others in what they had to say. And we're going to build on that talk now, talking about how we build high-impact, purpose-driven, well-being businesses. So let's introduce the panelists. We have Dr. Catherine Ibbotson, who is the Director of Strategic Advisory at WSP, and there she is on the screen. Good morning. She has spent 18 years at the Environment Agency and is now Chair of Measuring, Sharing and Benchmarking of Strategic Carbon Impacts. And in the top right-hand corner of my windows, I can see Simon Farrell, who is the co-founder of Today the Arena. He was the founder of Taburn, a major brand agency, and I can see the influence of his work when I was having my shave and having my wash this morning in the bathroom, in the products that he has influenced. I won't name what company that would be, but it's pretty obvious. And he now leads a purpose consultancy here in Edinburgh and across Scotland. And he is the lead for what we're going to introduce as one of the initiatives that you can get involved in today for Edinburgh Can Be, our Business for Good network. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner a great friend of mine and my esteemed colleague, Dr. Hoptan, who is a lecturer in the business school and has inspired thousands of students in sustainability. And the reason why I was attracted to come to Napier was because there was a business strategy and sustainability module 9 or so years ago, and it had been longer than that. Napier has been teaching sustainability to all our business school students for a very, very long time, and we get very excited in what we do and how that is changing over the years. So we're going to talk about purpose-led, high-impact, well-being businesses. So if I can start by asking Simon, what is a purpose-driven, high-impact, well-being business, and why does it matter, Simon? Give us a vision.
Well, I'll try my hardest. Thanks, Miles. Thanks for inviting me along today. Great to be here. So what do we mean by purpose-driven, high-impact, well-being business? So in my opinion, the whole thing about being purpose-driven is it's not purely profit-driven. So these businesses that call themselves purpose-driven have a very clear idea of why they exist, of the problem they're trying to solve, of the value they bring into the world over and above making money. They are profitable, and profit's important for them to exist and grow, but they're very much focused on solving problems in a way that adds value to their customers, and it's that motivation and direction that takes them forward and takes their employees forward and then takes customers with them on that journey. And those businesses tend to have a really good awareness of the impact they have. So that's the second part, which is the impact they have while they're doing the business. So if the purpose is all about what they do and the value they deliver and how they influence and the difference they make in the world, their impact is what they do as they do that. So the impact they have on broader stakeholder groups. So the impact they have on employees, on suppliers, on the communities, on the environment, and the world around them. So they're very aware of that impact and manage it in such a way that they're not damaging it unnecessarily, or actually are probably net positive as if they can be. And I guess the benefit of both those things is this thought that it's more about the well-being of everybody. And I've really been taken by Scotland's lead in becoming a well-being economy, or desire to be a well-being economy, and one of only a handful of countries in the world that are looking at the well-being of the nation, of the citizens, as a measure of success rather than just the GDP and money. And so I think these purpose-driven, impact-aware, well-being businesses are very focused on not maximizing the money they make, but are impacting the well-being of all the people that are involved with them, and all the people and audiences and stakeholders they touch, and thinking about the well-being they bring to the world as a measure of success rather than just money. So I guess that's how I would describe it. And the reason it's important is, I guess, that it goes back to, I always go back to a quote that Kate Raworth put in Donut Economics, which is that we're the first generation to be fully aware of the negative impact we're having on our society and planet, and the last generation to do something transformative about it. And these businesses are doing something transformative about it, and I'd like to play a part in helping more do the same.
Excellent. So other than WSP, which we'll come to in a moment, Kat, what can you give some examples of some purpose-driven organizations?
Well, yeah, it's put me on the spot there. But I mean, my go-to has always been Patagonia. I know it's a US-based business, but the sort of the outdoor sort of sportswear uh, uh, company and brand. They've always been a go-to example for me, just because they do so well. They have fantastic products that give value to their customers and what they do. They're BCorp certified, have been for a number of years. They use their business as a force for good, and they encourage people, not just employees, but their customers, to take action and improve the environment. So they everything they do, from their company ethos, their clear purpose statement, the culture they develop, the products they make, the way they make them, and the way they engage their customers through their products and brand and ongoing activities, and through building a community that helps change the world for better. I think it's just it is one of the best examples of how our business can be purpose driven, profit, delivering profit, but having a real positive impact in what they do. So that would be my go-to example.
And I live in Morningside here in Edinburgh, and I walk down the street and I see Cook and I see Jojo B Mamas, which I need to start shopping in, I suppose. And these are B Corps, and you mentioned B Corps. What are your thoughts on the B Corps and the B Corps movement?
Well, I'm slightly biased here, as I'm a B leader, so I help businesses become B Corp. So I'm obviously going to say it's it's a fantastic movement. And actually, what's really interesting, in fact, just yesterday I just read an article. Is it's a growing movement. So it's been around 15 years in totality, but only 5 years in the UK. And there's something like 4,500 B Corp certified B Corps in the world at the moment. But in the last 18 months, there's another 4,500 going through the certification process. So what's been really interesting is that the B Corp, so the guys, the B Labs that organise it, they actually thought that the pandemic would have a negative impact on the amount of people and businesses that would be able to afford and put time and effort in becoming certified. It's actually doubled the number of people, number of businesses going through it. So I think that's been a fantastic example of how businesses are responding, not only just to the pandemic, but also COP, the climate crisis, and just generally how businesses can be a positive force for good, rather than just being about sort of selfishly about profit driven. So yeah, B Corps are a good thing.
Excellent. And I believe some congratulations in order, because you've just helped 2 organisations get through B Corp certification.
Yep, so they're in the queue. They're again, just because demand's increased, the queue's actually length of time that it's now taking to verify all the questions and get them through the process has increased. But yeah, they're on the road to becoming certified. So yeah,
Great.
that's great.
So we know what your impact is then, Simon. So if we can turn to Kat, and I've been quite inspired over the last 24 hours at this conference and listening about what WSP is doing. There's loads. There's so much. You are certainly #get on with it. Most certainly. So can you give us a little bit more about why you're a purpose-driven organisation and how you are rising to this net zero challenge?
So I think what I want to do is touch back in terms of, I've only been in WSP for 2 months. And you mentioned at the beginning I was with the Environment Agency. I've done some work with the IC and chairing their measuring, benchmarking, carbon impacts work. And now I'm with WSP as a director in strategic advisory and leading on net zero. And what underpins all of that is what is my passion in terms of focusing on net zero, creating a better planet for the future, and the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. And what resonated with me with WSP is that's really core to what they are. Is it core to what they do? They really want to create an inclusive and healthy and enjoyable workspace for their employees and build a workforce that reflects what society needs today and equip it for future challenges. And I think when you look at things like that in terms of what is a purpose-driven organisation, you also have to look at, actually, it's a vocation in terms of what we're trying to do. It's not just going to a job. It's not just about building things and creating things. It's about doing things in the right way. And that's what I think WSP really does bring. to the market in terms of being quite a highly driven organisation with a purpose and a common goal to combat climate change, not just individually, but working with their partners, whether that's different clients or institutions or others within industry. It's about going the extra mile, and that's really what's also reflected within the Future Ready programme, which has been around for some time now. But it's also about creating that balance. So not just about making commitments, it's also about putting things into practical action. And for me, that's really important on a personal level in terms of actually what I can do within the organisation and what we can help others to do. But it's also about sharing that wider vision of net zero. It's also about looking at saying, how do we halve the carbon to do with our designs and advice by 2030? How do we get to net zero in terms of our operations by 2025? And it's doing that by having a focus internally within the organisation, but also outside. So WSP's got a huge amount of examples to pull on. But what really does resonate in terms of being able to take an organisation forward and having an impact within society is very much around, as has been mentioned already, in terms of it's having that purpose which supports people in terms of its individuals and who it's working with. It's about the planet as a whole, but also it's about profit. And that's not profit about just making money. It's about profit in terms of driving market in the right way, being able to create more of a stable economy going forward, being able to drive innovation in the right green areas that we need to do. But it's also being able to say that we can reduce carbon and work towards net zero and as a way of working, building it into as business as usual, but also balancing that with building resilience in terms of a changing climate. And I think WSP does that pretty well.
Mm. And what I enjoyed from reading your website and listening over the last couple of days over the conference is that word meaningful action. I like that word meaningful. And we've talked a lot over this conference about collaboration, which we'll come back to in a moment. But most certainly you can see that WSP is bringing about meaningful change and meaningful action through those collaborations. So thank you very much, Kat, for that. Now, if I can turn to my colleague, Hock, lecturer in the business school, who we have been teaching sustainability now for many years. We are the Ben and Jerry of the business school. I don't know if I am Ben or Jerry, but no ice creams today. But it's a phenomenal experience working with Hock. I really enjoy every single day working with Hock. And you talk always about the game changers. And Kat is one of these game changers. And you influence these game changers on every day, Hock. How can we equip our future leaders for the future of work and the challenges that Kat and Simon have already mentioned?
First of all, very good morning, folks. It was a pleasure to listen both to the previous speakers, Louise, Kat, and Simon as well. But as I was listening, I kind of really got excited. I really had wished that we had this conversation when I was in a business school in the 80s, right? As you can see, I'm a son of a Thatcher, gone through the neoliberal schools, the purpose of business is to maximize profit. And I find myself, having listened to Louise and Simon and Cass, I have to unlearn a lot of things, right? I am slowly, I'm speaking for myself, a recovering plunderer, if you like. I'm going through rehab, right? But trying to understand that powerful force called purpose that we are talking about, And I make it my life purpose to share this with my students, right? Because if you discover the power of purpose, you find energy. I believe that. And that applies to any organization, right? I mean, I get the point that profit is important, What John Mackey in Conscious Capitalism, or Ed Freeman, for example, talks about profit being the red blood cell. You need it. You need it to survive. But that is not the sole purpose of business, isn't it? To produce more and more red blood cell. It will kill itself eventually, right? So we need that purpose, or Simon Sinek calls it, we need profit. It's just like the petrol you put in your car, to take that vehicle from one point to another. But the purpose of business is not just to, fill the car with petrol. That's it. I think that if the business school can impress on the students the importance of purpose beyond profit, I think, like I said, we will discover a very, very powerful source of energy, innovation. And that is the zeitgeist of today. The challenge with let's just listening to Louise, for example, listening to what my kids say at the dining table. It is our duty now to look beyond profit and again focus on also on purpose. In other words, focus more on what we call short-term numbers and focus more on long-term values, right? And I think Simon mentioned this in our kind of panel discussion. It talks about the cathedral thinking. Think in terms of 7 generation, not think about tomorrow or the next quarter, right? And these are the things that I would love to teach. I am teaching the students. It's not about the knowledge, the doing, and it's not about the what you call the knowledge, knowing, the doing bit, but it's also the being. Who am I? What am I good at? Why am I here for? And I think if students cut, wow, I think that would cause a fireworks. Okay, so that is my life story. I think that's what I want to do, Miles, and I am happy to have you who can share this journey with me.
Certainly. You mentioned, it was very interesting, Hock. You mentioned unlearning, letting go. And you mentioned what we do in a business school and the theories and concepts that we teach and the graduates that we wish to produce. What do we as educators need to let go of? What do our students need to let go of? What do our business leaders need to let go of to #get on with it?
I think we need to let go of the baggage, right? We are attached to old ideas, to old concepts, to let go fear and embrace the future, to let go uncertainty. I mean, it's easy for me to say this, I suppose, as an academic, right? But it's more difficult for an entrepreneur who has to, pay the wages, pay the bills, right? But I think there's the contradiction here, in letting go, you let come new possibilities, right? And in times of crisis, we have what we call the Overton window. Overton window is a window where the society would normally not contemplate these ideas, right? But in a crisis, suddenly all these ideas, which in the past would be deemed crazy or impossible or a pie in the sky or whatever, but now becomes, hey, that's a possibility. Why not?
Why not? So in a moment, we're going to go to some Q&A questions. So please post your questions and answers for the panel, and we will be taking those in the next couple of minutes. We are Edinburgh Napier University Business School, and we are embracing PRIME, the Principles for Responsible Management in Education. And we have started our journey to embed that through our curriculum, our activities, our public engagement, our research, our organisational strategy. And we are pursuing AACSB accreditation that drove these PRIME initiatives, which is the United Nations SDGs through the business school, embedded in the business school. And Hock and I are driving that. And we look forward to the opportunities that brings. So I'm going to take some questions in a moment. I can't see any questions on the screen, so I might need to ask Barbara to tell me if there are any questions. But just give an opportunity to the other speakers. Anything you want to pick up on that has been discussed so far?
I think so.
Share an example? Oh, sorry, Kat, go ahead.
No worries. I was just going to pick up on what Hock was saying in terms of that element of uncertainty. And I think as a society, we're always looking for perfection. And actually being able to move towards a net zero economy and working in different ways doesn't always have that level of certainty. We don't always have all the answers, and therefore we have to take more of a risk-based approach in terms of actually what risk we're willing to accept, how we're going to deal with uncertainty, how we're going to deal with it on an individual, as an organization, but also as a community level. And that will help drive a different way of working, which is based around continued improvement and maturity and doing things in a different way, which is not always about, I'm going to get it to its nth degree in terms of perfection, and then I'm going to roll it out because 30 years have already passed. And that really does flip in terms of how we need to be doing things a little bit differently in terms of what we're delivering, but also how we need to work with our clients going forward, because that's a very different approach in terms of from a business perspective, because that also challenges standards and governance and how things need to move forward.
Yeah, interestingly, you mentioned that, because I was going to pick up on something that Huck said as well about or you had a question about what you need to let go. One of the things that occurred to me is that, again, I like Huck, I'm a recovering business student from the from the late 80s, and went to business school in the 90s, did an MBA in the 90s, so I'm trying to unlearn all that. I think one of the things I'm personally trying to let go of is that sort of over analytical approach to business, and just what Kat was saying about uncertainty, because things are getting more and more, and change is getting faster and faster, and I think it's harder to analyze and plan our way out of this. And this is why I think this the idea of purpose and sense of purpose is so important, because I think if you feel, so one of the things I think we need to learn to let go as business leaders is this sense of certainty that we're going to plan our way out of this. We're going to do it in a very mechanical, this, then this, then this, then this. Whereas this, and we've talked about this before, Miles, about this idea of the emergent future and sensing our way into it. And I think if you've got a really deep, clear, felt belief of what you're doing and sense of purpose, then you're better equipped to feel your way through these changes and feel your way through doing the right thing without actually having to rely on analytically sort of going from A to B to C to D, because life is not going to be like that. So I think that was one of the things that I think we might want to let go of, and maybe business schools might want to let go of as well. And as you said, what emerges, or what comes in its place, is this sense of doing the right thing, of going in the right direction, individually and collectively. And I think that's where purpose plays a really important part in bringing everyone around that sense and taking people forward.
Great. So it's at the heart of our business school mission to empower for the future of work and the jobs of the future and the skills that are needed for that future. And what an exciting future that we've got. So we're on that journey, and help us with that journey, and hopefully we are that business school that is a regenerative university. Okay, any other comments that want to be made?
Yeah, could I just share one example? It's very naughty of me, but I kind of thought that you might ask the question. Who gives a crap? All right. It's a toilet roll. It's a toilet roll. That's it. It's a commodity. Very difficult to differentiate it. But I subscribe to it. So every 6 weeks, I get 48 rolls. Okay, right? So why do I do it? Why do I buy from a company like this? You see, it's not. I discover that it's not what a company produces that I buy. Is why did the company produce it? That's what I'm buying. The why, right? So this company, for example, would donate 50% of its profit, building toilets in developing countries and so on. And I feel nice when I use it. Then, I'm contributing something. And in terms of price, right? This is priced at exactly more or less the same as Tesco toilet rolls from recycled paper. So why give my profit to Tesco then if I can give this to who gives a crap and do something good at the same time, right?
Wonderful.
So again, it's so I begin to align my purpose, my values to that of the company. All right. And I think that found change as well. I think, the way I was taught in business school, the market is a place where you exchange products, services, very rational and so on. But for me, the market now is a place where you co-create values, you co-create purpose, right? And if you can get customers that can share that vision, that purpose, boy, that will be a great differentiator. you find yourself swimming in what we call the blue ocean as opposed to the red ocean.
Wonderful.
So that's an example I like to bring out.
Well, we're a university, so we don't do product placement. But go and buy some.
No.
Go and buy some. But I can tell you that, that our university is listening, because we put Who Gives a Crap toilet paper in every student residencies this year. So all the students were reading about that on day one. So that goes down to values, doesn't it? So that was a values conversation. Students moving into residency, how can we demonstrate our commitment to net zero and the environment and sustainability and all that? It's through the products that we make available to them. So the university did that. But personal sustainability is a big one, isn't it, Hog? It's a massive one. Where do we bank? Where do we invest? What toilet rolls do we buy?
Or even which search engine do you use? I use something called Ecosia, right? And Ecosia, sorry, I can't. Okay, I won't. Another product placement. I won't mention it, but that search engine doesn't keep my personal search history. And secondly, it plants trees. So the latest count is they have planted over 130 million trees.
That's right.
I think the other thing that I think I found over lockdown and COVID, it's had an opportunity to allow individuals to reflect differently. And that means actually what was perhaps driven by wants, in a broad sense of the term, is now driven by what do I really need? And I don't need lots of things. I don't need lots of entertainment. I need different things in terms of actually what supports individual and family well-being, and actually what do we collectively get out of what we do together. And I think that is something that we need to make sure that is not lost as we move forward, because that sort of centres value of what's important to us collectively as communities will actually help drive what businesses provide for us, because we don't want lots of free things. When you go to different fairs, you always get those balloons which everybody hates, and my children thankfully all refuse.